The morning sky above Earth changed forever when the first alien ships appeared. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the space station, watching massive dark vessels move into position around his home planet. Each ship was bigger than any city he had ever seen. Their hulls gleamed with strange metal that seemed to bend light around its edges. Jake pressed his hand against the cold window. 3 months ago, he had been planning his retirement from the Earth Defense Force. Now he was humanity's first line of contact with beings from another world. The radio in his ear crackled with reports from stations across the solar system. Every defense post was reporting the same thing. The aliens had arrived, and they had come in numbers that made Earth's entire military look like children playing with toy soldiers. Dr. Lisa Grant rushed into the observation lounge, her tablet clutched tight in her hands. Her face was pale, but her eyes held the excitement of a scientist facing the discovery of a lifetime. She had spent her career studying life on Earth, cataloging species, and understanding how evolution shaped every creature on the planet. Now she would meet life that had evolved under completely different stars. "They want to talk," she said, showing Jake the message on her screen. The translation came through our deep space array. They call themselves the Zephyrian Empire. General Paul Harrison joined them at the window. He was an old soldier who had seen wars in every corner of Earth, but nothing had prepared him for this. His weathered face showed the strain of 3 sleepless days spent preparing for humanity's first diplomatic meeting with alien visitors. "Do we know what they want?" Jake asked. "They say they come in peace," Harrison replied. "They want to establish what they call cultural exchange protocols, whatever that means." The meeting took place on the New Geneva Station, humanity's most advanced orbital facility. Jake watched through the security cameras as the alien shuttle docked with their station. The craft moved with impossible grace, seeming to flow through space rather than fly through it. When the airlock opened, the Zephyrian stepped through. Admiral Kethvar was the first alien Jake had ever seen. The creature stood nearly 8 feet tall, with skin that looked like polished stone. 4 arms moved with fluid precision, each ending in hands that had too many fingers. His head was elongated, with eyes that glowed with soft blue light. When he spoke, his voice came through the translation device as smooth and confident. "Greetings, primitive inhabitants of this small world," Kethvar said. His tone suggested he was speaking to children. "We are the Zephyrian Empire, masters of 17 star systems. We have come to study your simple planet." Dr. Grant stepped forward with her presentation tablet. She had prepared carefully for this moment, selecting the best examples of Earth's achievements in science, art, and culture. But the aliens seemed bored by human cities, unimpressed by human technology, and completely dismissive of human history. "Show us your fauna," Commander Vextar interrupted during Grant's explanation of human space exploration. This alien was smaller than the Admiral but moved with predatory grace. "We wish to see what beasts inhabit this world." Grant hesitated, then activated her wildlife database. She had prepared this as a gesture of goodwill, a way to share Earth's natural beauty with beings from another world. The holographic display showed a rotating gallery of Earth's animals, from the smallest insects to the largest whales. The reaction was immediate and devastating. The Zephyrians began making sounds that their translation devices rendered as laughter. Admiral Kethvar pointed at the image of a lion with one of his 4 hands. "This is your most dangerous predator?" he asked, his voice full of amusement. "This small, soft creature?" Commander Vextar gestured dismissively at the image of a great white shark. "We have fish in our decorative ponds larger than this beast. Does it even have proper scales?" The aliens continued their mockery as Grant cycled through image after image. They laughed at elephants, calling them pathetically tiny. They dismissed grizzly bears as weak cubs. When she showed them footage of a pack of wolves hunting, Admiral Kethvar made a sound that the translator couldn't interpret but clearly conveyed contempt. "On Zephyr Prime," the Admiral explained, "our smallest predators stand twice the height of your largest beasts. Our apex hunters are longer than your flying machines and stronger than your ground vehicles. These creatures you show us would serve as amusing pets for our children." General Harrison's face grew red with anger, but Jake placed a warning hand on his arm. They needed to learn more about these beings before responding to insults. Dr. Grant tried to explain the complexity of Earth's ecosystems, the delicate balance between predator and prey, the millions of years of evolution that had shaped every species on the planet. But the Zephyrians were not interested in complexity or balance. They saw only size and strength, and by their standards, Earth's wildlife was laughably weak. "We have decided," Admiral Kethvar announced after the presentation ended, "that your world will make an excellent addition to our collection of primitive biomes. We will establish wildlife preserves across your continents. Your creatures will provide entertainment for citizens of the Empire who wish to observe primitive life forms." The meaning became clear as the Admiral continued speaking. The Zephyrians did not see Earth as a world inhabited by intelligent beings. They saw it as a zoo, filled with curious but harmless animals that would amuse their children. Humans were simply another species to be catalogued and managed. "You will serve as caretakers," Commander Vextar added. "Your species shows adequate intelligence for basic maintenance tasks. You will feed the specimens and clean their enclosures, under our supervision." Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach as he realized the truth. These beings had not come to make friends or share knowledge. They had come to turn his entire world into a tourist attraction, with humanity as the janitors. The aliens departed as smoothly as they had arrived, leaving behind only a schedule for their return and a list of collection sites they intended to establish. Jake stood with Dr. Grant and General Harrison, watching the alien shuttle disappear into the dark hull of the mothership. "They have no idea what they're dealing with," Grant said quietly, still staring at her tablet full of Earth's supposedly harmless wildlife. Harrison nodded grimly. "Neither do we. But we're about to find out." 3 months passed like a bad dream. Captain Jake Morrison crouched in the underground bunker beneath Colorado, watching enemy movement on dozens of screens. The Zephyrians had kept their word. They returned with more ships, bigger ships, and an army of creatures that made Earth's military look like ants facing elephants. The aliens had not bothered with negotiations or warnings. They simply began landing at locations across every continent. Their ships descended like metal mountains, crushing forests and cities alike. When human forces tried to fight back, the Zephyrian biomechanical hunters swept them aside without effort. Jake studied the tactical displays showing alien positions worldwide. Each red dot represented a collection facility where the Zephyrians were gathering Earth's wildlife. The aliens worked with ruthless efficiency, treating the entire planet like a shopping mall where they could take whatever caught their interest. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez's voice crackled through the radio from her position in the Amazon rainforest. Her unit had been observing Zephyrian operations for 2 weeks, hiding in the dense jungle canopy while recording everything they saw. "Command, this is Rodriguez. The aliens just finished clearing Sector 7. They're loading animals into transport containers like they're packing groceries." Her voice carried a mixture of anger and disbelief. "I watched them handle a full-grown jaguar with one hand. The big cats didn't even slow them down." Jake closed his eyes. The jaguar was one of South America's apex predators, a killing machine that had ruled the jungle for thousands of years. To the Zephyrians, it was apparently nothing more than a house cat. "What about the anacondas?" Jake asked, hoping for better news. "Same story, sir. They've got some kind of stunning weapon that drops any animal instantly. Saw them bag 3 20-foot snakes in less than 5 minutes. The aliens were actually laughing while they worked." Dr. Lisa Grant looked up from her workstation in the corner of the bunker. She had been studying captured Zephyrian technology with engineer Tony Kim, trying to understand how their weapons and equipment functioned. Her face showed the exhaustion of someone who had been working 18-hour days for weeks. "Jake, you need to see this," she called out, pointing at her computer screen. "Tony and I have been analyzing the alien bioscans they took during first contact. We know why they think our animals are so weak." Tony Kim pulled up a 3-dimensional model of what appeared to be a massive creature. The beast looked like a cross between a dinosaur and a tank, with thick armor plating and limbs the size of tree trunks. Its head alone was larger than most Earth animals. "This is a Zephyrian apex predator," Tony explained. "According to their data, it's one of their smaller dangerous species. The thing weighs about 12 tons and can crush steel with its jaws." Grant nodded and switched to another image. Their entire ecosystem evolved around size and brute strength. Look at this. The new model showed a creature that resembled a massive bear, but with 6 legs and claws that looked like sword blades. This is what they consider a medium-level threat on their homeworld. Jake stared at the images, beginning to understand. Their world never developed small, specialized predators. Exactly, Grant said. On Zephyr Prime, bigger means stronger means more dangerous. They never had to deal with creatures that kill through venom, disease, or other specialized methods. Their evolution took a completely different path than ours. The radio crackled again, this time with Colonel Ben Carter's voice from his reconnaissance position in Africa. His team had been monitoring a major Zephyrian facility in Kenya, one of the largest collection sites on the planet. Command, I'm looking at something interesting here. The aliens have built their main African base right in the middle of safari country. They've got containment units set up everywhere, but they're not being careful about what they're mixing together. Jake grabbed the microphone. Explain, Colonel. Sir, they're keeping predators and prey in the same general area. They've got lions next to zebras, crocodiles near antelope, that sort of thing. It's like they don't understand how our food chain works. They think they can just stun everything and it'll stay calm. Tony Kim frowned at his computer screen. That doesn't make sense. Any advanced civilization should understand basic predator-prey relationships, not if their predators are so big and slow that they never developed complex hunting behaviors, Grant replied. Look at their biomechanical hunters. They're basically just oversized grabbing machines. No strategy, no stealth, just brute force. The eye. Screens around the bunker showed live feeds from resistance cells worldwide. In Australia, Sergeant Kelly Brooks reported that the aliens had established a research facility near the coast. They were collecting marine life, apparently fascinated by Earth's ocean creatures that had no equivalent on their landlocked homeworld. They're treating box jellyfish like goldfish, Brooks reported, handling them with basic protective gear and storing them in regular containers. Same with the blue-ringed octopi and cone snails. They have no idea what they're dealing with. Jake felt the first stirring of hope he had experienced in months. The Zephyrians were making mistakes. They were so confident in their technological superiority that they were not taking proper precautions with Earth's wildlife. In Europe, resistance fighters reported similar observations. The aliens had built collection facilities in locations that seemed chosen at random, without consideration for local environmental factors. They placed bases in swamplands full of disease-carrying insects, in forests home to venomous spiders, and along coastlines where dangerous marine life was common. They're treating Earth like their homeworld, Grant realized. They expect our dangerous creatures to be big, obvious, and easy to spot. They're not prepared for threats that are small, hidden, or chemically dangerous. Major Chris Johnson's voice came through from his position in South Africa. Command, you're going to want to hear this. The aliens just attempted to collect a colony of driver ants. They sent in one of their biomechanical hunters to scoop up the nest. Jake leaned forward. What happened? Well, sir, their machine can handle large animals just fine. But it turns out that 1 million angry ants weighing a few grams each present a completely different kind of problem. The hunter is currently buried under a living carpet of insects, and the aliens have no idea how to get it back. Tony Kim laughed for the first time in weeks. Their technology is designed for their world. Big, slow, predictable threats. They never had to deal with swarm intelligence or collective behavior. Dr. Grant stood up slowly, her eyes bright with an idea that Jake recognized as dangerous. What if we stopped trying to fight their technology and started using what they can't? Understand? What do you mean? Jake asked. They came here to collect Earth's wildlife because they thought it was harmless and primitive. What if we showed them exactly how wrong they are? The bunker fell silent except for the hum of electronics and the distant sound of alien ships passing overhead. Jake looked around at his team, seeing the same realization dawning on each face. They had been trying to fight the Zephyrians with human weapons and human tactics, but Earth had been developing weapons of its own for millions of years. Weapons that the aliens had dismissed as toys, never imagining that the planet's most dangerous creatures might be its smallest ones. Jake picked up the radio microphone and began issuing new orders to resistance cells worldwide. It was time to Stop fighting like humans and start fighting like the planet Earth itself. The first sign that something had gone wrong came from Australia. Sergeant Kelly Brooks had been watching the Zephyrian research facility on the coast for 2 weeks when the alien communications suddenly stopped. No more ships landing, no more signals between the base and the orbital fleet, just silence. Captain Jake Morrison studied the satellite images from his underground command center. The Australian facility looked normal from above, but none of the usual activity was visible. No alien guards patrolling the perimeter, no biomechanical hunters loading specimens, no movement at all. "Brooks, what's your visual on the facility?" Jake asked through the radio. "Sir, I can see the main building, but something's not right. The entrance is sealed and there are what look like emergency lights flashing inside. I haven't seen a single alien in the past 6 hours." Dr. Lisa Grant leaned over Jake's shoulder to study the images. "What were they collecting at that site?" "Tony." Kim checked his database. "Marine specimens, mostly. Box jellyfish, blue-ringed octopi, cone snails, sea snakes. They were fascinated by our ocean life since their homeworld doesn't have large bodies of water." Grant's face went pale. "Oh no. They were handling those creatures like they handle everything else." Jake didn't understand immediately, but Grant was already pulling up files on her computer. Images of tiny, beautiful sea creatures filled the screen, each one looking harmless and delicate. "The box jellyfish has enough venom to kill 60 adult humans," Grant explained. "The blue-ringed octopus carries a neurotoxin that causes paralysis and death within minutes. Cone snails inject toxins that attack the nervous system so fast that victims don't even realize they've been stung." Tony Kim stared at the screen. "And the aliens were collecting them with basic protective gear." "Worse," Grant continued, "their protective suits are designed to stop physical attacks from large predators. They probably offer no protection against microscopic toxins that attack on a molecular level." Brooks's voice crackled through the radio again. "Command, I'm seeing some kind of recordings playing on screens inside the facility. It looks like security footage. Can you get closer and record what you're seeing?" Jake asked. 20 minutes later, Brooks transmitted grainy video footage that made everyone in the command center fall silent. The security recordings showed Zephyrian researchers working with Earth's marine creatures. The aliens moved with their usual confidence, handling deadly jellyfish and octopi like harmless toys. The footage showed the moment everything went wrong. A researcher lifted a cone snail from its container, apparently examining the beautiful shell pattern. The tiny creature, no larger than a human thumb, extended its proboscis and stung the alien through a gap in his protective suit. The 8-foot-tall Zephyrian collapsed within seconds. His colleagues rushed to help, not understanding what had happened. In their panic, they made more mistakes. Protective suits were torn, safety protocols were ignored, and more researchers came into contact with the deadly specimens. "They had no idea," Grant whispered, watching the aliens fall one by one. "On their world, dangerous means big and obvious. They never learned to fear small, beautiful things that kill silently." The facility in Australia was just the beginning. Within days, reports came in from other sites around the world. The African facility that Colonel Ben Carter had been watching went silent after attempting to study driver ants. The aliens had tried to collect an entire colony, not understanding that millions of tiny insects could be more dangerous than any single large predator. Major Chris Johnson transmitted footage from South Africa showing the aftermath. Biomechanical hunters lay motionless, their sensors overwhelmed by the sheer number of targets. The ants had not tried to fight the massive machines. Instead, they had simply covered them completely, finding gaps in the armor and attacking the sensitive electronic components inside. "The hunters are designed to track and capture large animals," Johnson reported. "They can't process threats that come from a million different directions at once. Their computer systems just shut down." From the Amazon, Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez reported that another facility had fallen to an enemy the aliens could not even see. Poison dart frogs, each no bigger than a human thumb, had contaminated the water supply. The beautiful, colorful amphibians carried toxins on their skin that made them deadly to touch. The aliens were using local water for their operations, Rodriguez explained. They never thought to test it for biological contamination. A few frogs got into their system, and their entire water supply became lethal. Jake realized they were witnessing something unprecedented. Earth's wildlife was fighting back, not through strength or size, but through millions of years of evolutionary warfare that the Zephyrians had never encountered. Dr. Grant pulled up, maps showing all the silent facilities. Look at the pattern. Every site that's gone quiet was collecting small, specialized predators. The ones that are still operational are only dealing with large mammals. The aliens are learning, Tony Kim observed, but they're learning too late. In Brazil, another facility reported problems. The Zephyrians had been collecting specimens from the rainforest, including tiny poison dart frogs and various venomous insects, but they had made a critical error in housing arrangements. They kept different species together, not understanding the complex relationships between rainforest creatures. When some specimens escaped their containers, they found an environment full of other dangerous creatures. The facility became a toxic battlefield where every surface, every drop of water, and every breath of air carried potential death. The resistance fighters watching from outside reported seeing alien researchers stumbling from the building, their protective suits torn and their movements unsteady. The Zephyrians had superior technology, but they were helpless against enemies their evolution had never prepared them to face. We're not just watching facilities fail, Grant realized. We're watching an entire species discover that bigger doesn't always mean better. Earth's creatures evolved in an arms race of chemical warfare, and the aliens brought knives to a gunfight. Jake looked at the growing list of silent facilities on his screens. For the first time since the invasion began, he felt hope. The Zephyrians had come to Earth expecting to find primitive beasts that could be easily controlled. Instead, they were learning that Earth's most dangerous predators were often its smallest ones. The planet was teaching the aliens a lesson in humility, one tiny, deadly creature at a time. And the Zephyrians, for all their technology and confidence, were proving to be very slow learners. Captain Jake Morrison watched the tactical displays with growing excitement. In 2 weeks, 7 more Zephyrian facilities had gone silent. The aliens were learning that Earth's wildlife was not as harmless as they had believed, but they were learning too slowly and paying too high a price. Dr. Lisa Grant burst into the command center, her eyes bright with an idea that Jake recognized as both brilliant and dangerous. Behind her, marine biologist Dr. Ryan Foster carried a sealed container that seemed to glow with an inner light. "Jake, we figured out how to fight back," Grant announced. "Not with our weapons, but with theirs." Foster set the container on the central table. Through the clear walls, tiny sea creatures moved with graceful, deadly beauty. Blue-ringed octopi, each no larger than a golf ball, pulsed with warning colors that meant death to anything that touched them. "The Zephyrians are still collecting specimens," Grant explained. "They haven't connected the facility failures to the creatures they're gathering. They think the problems are caused by equipment malfunctions or human sabotage." Jake stared at the container. "You want to deliberately introduce these things to their facilities. Not just introduce," Foster added. "We want to help them spread. The aliens are so focused on large threats that they don't have proper containment for small ones. We can use their own collection systems against them." Tony Kim looked up from his computer screens. "I've been studying their security footage. The Zephyrians use automated systems to move specimens between facilities. If we can get dangerous creatures into their transport network, they'll spread themselves." Lieutenant Sarah White's voice came through the radio from her position near a Pacific research station. The facility sat on a floating platform, harvesting marine life from the deep ocean. The aliens had been particularly interested in creatures from the ocean depths, fascinated by life forms that had no equivalent on their dry homeworld. "Command, I'm in position near the marine facility. The aliens just brought in another batch of deep-sea specimens. They're handling everything with the same basic protective gear." Jake grabbed the microphone. "White, can you get close to their specimen intake system?" "Already here, sir. They've got automated sorting machines that process everything they collect. Security is light because they don't think anything on Earth can threaten them." Grant smiled grimly. "Perfect. Sarah, We're going to send you some special additions to their collection. The plan was simple but required perfect timing. Foster had prepared containers of Earth's most dangerous small creatures, each one carefully selected for maximum impact. Blue-ringed octopi that could kill with a single bite, cone snails that delivered toxins faster than alien medical systems could respond, box jellyfish whose tentacles carried enough venom to contaminate entire water systems. White moved carefully through the underwater approach to the floating facility. The Zephyrians had never considered that humans might attack from below, especially using the very creatures they were trying to collect. Their sensors were designed to detect large threats, not small humans, swimming with sealed containers of death. "I'm at the intake pipes," White whispered into her underwater communicator. "Releasing the first batch now." The beautiful, deadly creatures flowed into the Zephyrian collection system like liquid nightmares. The automated sorting machines, designed to handle Earth's harmless wildlife, processed them without any special precautions. Within hours, the most dangerous specimens were being distributed throughout the facility. Meanwhile, in the Amazon, Rodriguez prepared her own surprise for the rainforest facility. The aliens had been fascinated by the bright colors of poisoned dart frogs, collecting them like living jewels without understanding that their beauty was a warning sign. "The frogs are in their water recycling system," Rodriguez reported. "The aliens use local water sources and they never thought to test for biological contamination. Every drop of water in that facility is now toxic to touch." The results were swift and devastating. The Pacific facility began reporting equipment failures as alien staff members collapsed from neurotoxin exposure. Their medical systems, designed to treat injuries from large predators, were useless against molecular-level toxins that attacked the nervous system directly. Colonel Carter watched the African facility through binoculars as chaos erupted inside. The aliens had tried to improve their containment systems after previous failures, but they still didn't understand the real threat. They had built stronger cages for large animals while leaving gaps that tiny creatures could easily slip through. "Command, they're evacuating the African site," Carter reported. "But they're making the same mistakes. They're focusing on getting their equipment out, while ignoring the small creatures that are actually killing them." The Zephyrians' greatest strength was becoming their greatest weakness. Their technology was so advanced, their confidence so complete, that they couldn't accept that Earth's tiny creatures could be more dangerous than their massive biomechanical hunters. Dr. Grant monitored alien communications from the command center. The Zephyrians were reporting to their fleet that they were facing technical difficulties and equipment contamination. They still refused to believe that creatures smaller than their smallest tools could pose a real threat. "They're evacuating 12 facilities," Grant reported, "but they're not changing their collection methods. They think if they move to new locations and use fresh equipment, the problems will go away." Jake realized that Earth's wildlife was teaching humanity something important. The planet had spent millions of years developing defenses that no alien technology could counter. Every venomous snake, every toxic frog, every deadly jellyfish was the result of an evolutionary arms race that had produced weapons more sophisticated than anything the Zephyrians possessed. Major Johnson's voice came through from South Africa with the best news yet. "Command, the aliens are starting to abandon their smaller facilities. They're consolidating their operations into fewer, larger bases. They think bigger facilities will be safer." Grant laughed, a sound that held no humor. "They still don't understand. Bigger facilities just mean more targets in one place. They're making themselves more vulnerable, not less." Tony Kim pulled up satellite images of the remaining Zephyrian bases. The aliens were indeed consolidating their operations, moving all their collected specimens and equipment to massive central facilities. They believed that concentrated defenses and larger security forces would protect them from whatever was causing their problems. They had no idea that they were gathering Earth's most dangerous creatures into perfect conditions for a final, devastating lesson in the power of small things. The tide was turning, and the Zephyrians were swimming against a current they couldn't even see. Admiral Kethvar's personal ship descended through Earth's atmosphere like a falling star. The massive vessel, larger than most human cities, carried the most advanced biomechanical predators in the Zephyrian Empire. The Admiral was tired of mysterious facility failures and equipment problems. He had come to Earth personally to show these primitive creatures what real power looked like. Captain Jake Morrison watched the alien flagship land in the Brazilian rainforest from his hidden command post. The ship's arrival had crushed acres of trees, creating a clearing where the Admiral planned to build the Empire's largest collection facility on Earth. Kethvar had chosen the location because it contained the highest concentration of species he wanted to study. Dr. Lisa Grant monitored alien communications as the Admiral's forces began unloading. He brought 12 of their apex biomechanical hunters, she reported. Each one is the size of a building and armed with enough firepower to level a city. He's not taking any chances. The biomechanical hunters moved through the rainforest like living mountains. Each creature stood 30 feet tall, with armor, plating that could stop tank shells and claws that could tear through steel. Their sensors could detect movement from miles away, and their weapons could stun or kill anything that posed a threat. Admiral Kethvar walked among his mechanical beasts, with complete confidence. His 4 arms gestured at the surrounding forest as he spoke to his subordinates. The translation devices picked up his words clearly. "This world has taught us that small problems require large solutions," the Admiral declared. "These primitive creatures cannot possibly threaten hunters designed to dominate the apex predators of 17 star systems." Dr. Ryan Foster crouched in the forest canopy, watching the aliens establish their base. Around him, the rainforest teemed with life that the Zephyrians still didn't understand. Tiny, poisoned dart frogs moved through the leaves, their bright colors, warning of death to any creature wise enough to recognize the signs. "Command, they're setting up specimen containers throughout the area," Foster whispered into his radio. "They're planning to collect everything in a 5-mile radius." Jake looked at the tactical display showing the alien positions. The Admiral had made a critical error in choosing this location. The Brazilian rainforest was home to some of Earth's most specialized killers, creatures that had evolved in an environment where every advantage meant survival and every mistake meant death. "Grant, are the specimens in position?" Jake asked. "Ready and waiting," she replied. "The aliens built their facility right on top of the most toxic ecosystem on Earth. They're surrounded by creatures they can't even see." The first attack came at dawn. Admiral Kethvar was inspecting his biomechanical hunters when the forest around him came alive with danger. But the threat didn't come from large predators or human weapons. It came from creatures so small that the alien sensors couldn't track them properly. Brazilian wandering spiders, each no larger than a human hand, emerged from the forest floor. Their venom was designed to cause maximum pain and paralysis, a chemical weapon refined by millions of years of evolution. The spiders moved through the alien base like tiny assassins, slipping through gaps in armor that had been designed to stop massive claws and teeth. The biomechanical hunters tried to respond to the attack, but their weapons and sensors were useless. How do you fight an enemy that weighs less than an ounce but carries enough venom to kill something 1,000 times its size? The mechanical beasts swung their massive claws at empty air, while their operators collapsed from spider bites they never saw coming. Admiral Kethvar watched in horror as his most powerful weapons were defeated by creatures he couldn't even properly see. His biomechanical hunters, designed to dominate through size and strength, stumbled blindly through the forest as their pilots succumbed to toxins that attacked their nervous systems faster than their medical systems could respond. But the spiders were only the beginning. Poisoned dart frogs, attracted by the moisture from the alien machinery, began contaminating every surface they touched. Their skin carried batrachotoxin, a neurotoxin so powerful that a single frog contained enough poison to kill dozens of Zephyrians. The aliens tried to retreat to their ship, but the rainforest had other plans. Bullet ants, whose sting caused pain beyond anything the Zephyrians had ever experienced, swarmed over the fleeing soldiers. Each ant was tiny, but together they delivered agony that alien painkillers couldn't touch. Foster watched from his hiding place as the Admiral's forces collapsed one by one. The most advanced military technology in the known galaxy was being defeated by creatures that most humans would barely notice during a walk through the forest. "Command, the Admiral is down," Foster reported. "Multiple spider bites, frog toxin, exposure, and ant stings. His protective suit looks like it was designed by someone who never imagined that death could come in such small packages. Admiral Kethvar lay paralyzed beneath a tree that had been growing long before humans discovered fire. Around him, his biomechanical hunters stood motionless, their operators dead or dying from toxins that turned their own nervous systems against them. The most powerful predators in 17 star systems had been defeated by creatures that weighed less than a coin. Jake watched through satellite feeds as the remaining Zephyrian forces fled to their ships. The Admiral, barely alive and supported by the few soldiers who could still move, was loaded into an escape pod. His forearms shook with palsy from neurotoxin exposure, and his glowing eyes had dulled to a dim flicker. The alien fleet began launching, from Earth orbit within hours. The Admiral's final transmission was broadcast on all frequencies, a warning that would echo across the Zephyrian Empire for generations to come. Avoid the third planet of this system at all costs, Kethvar's weakened voice declared. Their wildlife represents an evolutionary path so dangerous that our technology cannot protect us. Earth is a death world, where the smallest creatures are the most deadly. Dr. Grant stood in the abandoned alien facility, watching the last enemy, ships disappear into space. Around her, the rainforest was already beginning to reclaim the cleared areas. Poison dart frogs sat on alien equipment, their bright colors a warning that would never again be ignored by visitors from other worlds. "We didn't save Earth with our weapons or our technology," she said to Jake over the radio. "We saved it with 4 billion years of evolution. Every creature that the aliens mocked was actually a perfect weapon, designed by natural selection to kill in ways they couldn't imagine. The war was over, and Earth had won, not through human courage or ingenuity, but through the deadly beauty of life itself, refined by countless generations into forms of lethality that no alien technology could match or defend against."